So, without further ado, the next panel is called CEX, DEX, and Rock and Roll, or as I like to think of it, sexy, DEXy, and rock and rolly. And we have four guests: Phil Potter, who is the former CSO of Bitfinex; Miha from Bitstamp, who you literally just saw, so if you've forgotten who he is, I can't help you; Austin Alexander from Kraken, who's literally not here, but should be here, hopefully, like midway through the panel; and our moderator is Josh Olszewicz from Brave New Coin and Techemy Capital. So Josh and panelists, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you for the beautiful pronunciation of my last name. We're just waiting on Phil to come out of the cave here.
Phil, you need to actually go out, like, outside.
You literally need to come out of the cave.
That's it.
We need you to physically be here.
Yeah, you need to physically come out of the cave.
There you go. I thought I saw Austin back there too. Well, cool, great. Thanks for joining us, everybody. It's weird we can't see people outside. You're just like talking to the ether.
To the Ethereum.
To the Ethereum. I was talking to Miha a little bit earlier in the day, but so last year we did this panel, same people, and we started with DEXs, talking about DEXs and in the crypto winter. So over the past year, Miha, what has surprised you the most since we last talked?
Yeah, so, speaking of DEXs, this is one of those where I'm happy to say that I was completely wrong, off the mark, missed everything, and I was just plainly too stuck up to actually see it all coming and exploding and evolving in such a spectacular fashion like it did. And in all honesty, I really didn't see or imagine that despite being so slow, so expensive, and so clunky to operate, these things just outpaced Coinbase, for example, in their volumes. And I think this is amazing. So I'm just standing in awe.
Yeah, I too am pretty amazed. I did not expect Uniswap to take off in the way in which it has.
Do you feel like it's more than just popularity? And so to me, I'm going to insert myself into the panel here. To me, it's more of regulatory arbitrage than anything. And if I can spin up some smart contract and get it listed on Uniswap, then why wouldn't I, right? If there's that gatekeeper barrier for Coinbase, Bitfinex, Bitstamp, whoever to list me, versus just listing some crap project on Uniswap, isn't that why the volumes are so high, or is there more to it than that? What do you think, Phil?
It's hard to say. I think the regulatory arbitrage is actually a very good explanation in general. At some point, you're giving up some level of functionality, swiftness of a centralized system for something that's going to be far clunkier and what have you. But yeah, there's no rules. Anything goes. I'm a little wary of that in the sense that I feel like there's going to be all kinds of negative stories and blow-ups and things like that will occur as a result of people playing in the completely unregulated space as other exchanges become more regulated. But we'll see. It's exciting though, very exciting.
Yeah, we haven't. Not only has DeFi exploded, but really retail trading in general, at least in the US, I don't know how it is in other countries, but retail trading here has exploded as well, which I don't think many people really lump the two together, but I think it's fair to bring them together, especially in Corona times or whatever. But so Miha, how do you see this ending? Is retail going to blow up again like it did in 2018? Is retail going to get burned? There was people saying retail got burned, they're not coming back. Well, it looks like they're back, right? So what's going on with retail?
They're all busy trading on Robinhood right now.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is something that I've covered in one other panel just like about a month ago, a week ago, and it was the same thing, that retail is not being protected. They're gonna lose money and that things gonna end bad. But honestly, I mean, they're trading Robinhood, they're trading oil, they're trading all kinds of stuff in March. So I wouldn't be too concerned just looking at DeFi and crypto. I would say that the whole trading environment for retail is kind of choppy and dangerous in this year.
Yeah, do you guys see stuff like Robinhood adding crypto as like stepping into your turf a little bit because you're pretty much a crypto exchange? Do you guys have a Euro pair as well, Euro USD or anything like that? Miha?
Well, we have Bitcoin USD trading, Bitcoin Euro trading, and Euro USD trading as well. So I don't necessarily see that is stepping in our turf. I mean, sure it is, but at the end of the day, it's highly likely that people who are trading through Robinhood wouldn't come to Bitstamp or Bitfinex or Kraken anyway. So I just see it as more involvement. But ultimately, all that volume ends up on spot exchanges and OTC anyway. I mean, whoever's market making on and streaming quotes on Robinhood needs to hedge out somewhere.
Yeah, Phil, do you have any thoughts on that?
I was just going to say that, with the volatility that we've had in traditional and legacy markets, traditional markets, whatever, that we've had because of COVID, there's been so much volatility that the degens that are in trading crypto now can actually trade things that are actually, I guess, regulated. And there's plenty of volatility there. So I think it's definitely taken the attention away from a lot of from crypto markets, which was kind of the place for volatility. I don't know. Now there's other stuff to trade.
Right, there's a new shiny rock.
Right.
So I guess like the bottom line question is, with DEXs, with retail traders going elsewhere, potentially, do centralized exchanges feel like they're a dinosaur here? Is their business model at risk for just competition in general?
Well, I definitely think it's at risk. I mean, I think that the ones that will survive are going to be the ones that are deep pocketed enough to invest in compliance. I'd just say in regulatory compliance overall. And they're slowly doing it, so there's going to be a few survivors. But I think that the days of kind of like a fly-by-night type exchanges are probably numbered in that regard. Because for two reasons. One, you're just going to have better well-run centralized exchanges. There'll be a few of those, and then you'll have the decentralized options that are getting better themselves. There will not be a lot in the middle there for basically crappy fly-by-night exchanges.
Sure. And so, Phil, have you done any yield farming or anything exciting like that?
What's that?
Have you done any yield farming or any AMM stuff?
I have not participated directly. I've not participated directly in those platforms. I have to the outside, but yeah. So I mean, I'd say, look, there's plenty of yield out there if you're lending in this space. I'm just worried about lending through a platform where who knows what's going on with the source code. And whether or not we're, like I said, we're one bug away from some big calamity, as we've seen, in the early days of Ethereum.
Yeah, Miha, have you ventured at all into the yield farming stuff?
In all truth be told, I mean, if I start yield farming, I'm probably going to be the yield for people that are much smarter than myself. So the answer is not.
Gotcha. And then I guess the next set of questions so I asked a bunch of people, what do they want to hear from the panel, right? What do they want to hear from centralized exchanges? And the other thing that kept coming up was, how can centralized exchanges be as nimble as other exchanges like FTX or like Binance, who just kind of list whatever they want whenever they want as quickly as they can. I mean, that uni listing was just insane across the board, the fact that it got listed so quickly. So do you have any plans, Miha, like at Stamp, to like list stuff quicker or have a pipeline, anything like that?
Yeah, so that's one of our, well, I would say that is the priority for us, just like all the rest of the centralized exchanges these days, because clearly the new entrants to the exchange space, and some of which you've mentioned, they just set a whole new standard for the entire industry when it comes to the listings. And before, some exchanges could list things faster as opposed to the regulated exchanges. I think this is a wake-up call that we all just need to, step up our game despite the regulatory statuses and just move quicker and move things faster, because this is clearly the new norm and this is not going away.
So do you see yourselves as like having a duty to protect the people trading on your exchange, or do you feel like you can list stuff, do some due diligence, but at the end of the day, if the risk is still there and it's not your fault if it blows up, right?
I mean, there's only so much you can do. Of course, Bitstamp, for example, will never become a shitcoin buffet. So we'll never just list random stuff that just, came out of nowhere and wants to get listed. This is not our business model. This is not how we build our brand. But nevertheless, it still doesn't mean that you need to move as slow when there is clearly a lot of very high quality products and innovation and protocols out there that I think deserve that people get access to in a more stable environment of a regulated exchange such as Bitstamp.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm going to agree with that. I think that there is a role for centralized exchanges to curate what they're offering, and I think that different ones will have different policy stuff. I mean, you got on one end of the spectrum, you got your KuCoins, right? That basically list everything under the planet, and then you have I think at the other end of that spectrum is probably Bitstamp, right? But I think that there's room for either yes, you want to list the stuff that people want to trade, but you just don't want to list just every shitcoin. I mean, you don't want to be the guy who's listing BitConnect when BitConnect, turns out to be a scam, which is a scam anyway. But it's but I think that there's value to leveraging a brand to try to concentrate liquidity into vetted products and projects.
I agree. And throughout the years, when there are so many, things that went wrong with a lot of these products and projects, as an exchange, you also become wiser and kind of learn and know what to look for in order to really protect the customer and people who are trading on your exchange.
Yeah, it's interesting how Gemini, Coinbase, they go from like listing very few projects to all of a sudden the floodgates are open, and literally, projects that are 2 weeks old are getting listed now. It's just an interesting about face from them, especially.
It is, but I'm going to guess that it was not really a question about face. I think part of it was making sure that they had regulatory air cover, that it was okay to do so, right? And I think I think the genie's out of the bottle, and I think that they feel like that they can, and they have the resources to go ahead and do it. So why wouldn't they, right? I mean, they'd be leaving money on the table to a certain extent, but even still, they're not listing everything. They really are. They have a process, and I think it's important for customers to feel like there is a process, because look, there's going to be other things. There's going to be other blow-ups. Things will go wrong. There'll be scams. There'll be inquiries. There'll be pissed off politicians and regulators. It's going to happen. It just comes in waves. And so we'll see what happens next go around. But I think that the centralized exchanges star will rise again. Is what I think. I And there's this love affair with the decentralized exchanges is, well, I mean, it'll fade.
Sure. And then back to Miha. So, is USDT ever going to get added to Bitstamp? And is staking coming to Bitstamp? What's the big thing coming down the pipeline? Give me some hot news here.
Okay, this one I really don't know where should I begin? So I should probably begin with staking. No offense, Phil, but I think Tether is great. I personally am amazed how much traction that thing just goes from strength to strength. When we spoke last year, it had like 5 billion assets under management or something. Now it has like 15 plus.
Not even.
Yeah, not even 5. Now it has 15 plus. I mean, it's trading at $40 billion a day, which is more than the GBP of the country I come from. So it's I would say it's pretty amazing. And I personally am keeping a very close eye on things, but it would be, I think, still a bit early for Bitstamp to consider it. When it comes to staking, I think it's no mystery that if you launch and if you decide to list proof of stake coins, you won't get any traction unless you offer staking as a side service to incentivize customers to actually bring the coins onto the exchange. So I think it goes hand in hand with the listings that we're planning for later this year.
Sure. And yeah, Phil, last year we talked a ton about Tether. And are you surprised at the explosion? I mean, I think all of us in crypto in general are just surprised at how much it's exploded.
I'm not that surprised. I think that at the end of the day, people ask the question, well, why isn't USDC? Why is that not the standard, right? And why is that always used to trail Tether in roughly the same proportion all the time? And I would say that the answer is simply the answer is Asia. I think that Tether has taken off as a surrogate U.S. dollar payment system mostly in Asia. And that really has to do with the fact that sending U.S. dollar payments through, say, the SWIFT network in Asia takes an inordinately long amount of time because it has to bounce off of a U.S. bank in U.S. banking hours. And of course, Asian banking hours are, it's like night and day, literally. So it takes a long time for you to send money from Taiwan to Singapore if you want to try and do U.S. dollars. So Tether is found a niche, and people are using Tether for non-crypto purposes, and for trade finance, for settling, we call it supply chain management, and posting collateral for OTC transactions. I mean, it's become extremely useful. It's in some ways Tether is supplanting the SWIFT network in areas of the world where SWIFT is too slow.
Phil, I absolutely agree with you. And there's, I think, one more aspect that you maybe didn't mention in Asia is that Asia is probably 90% of all crypto derivatives trading in the world right now. And it's just like exponentially growing by the day. And, the more leverage, the more volume you see in open interest you see in derivatives products such as options, futures, you will need to have something that's a bit more stable of a collateral than Bitcoin necessarily. So I think that kind of is also an aspect that will just add some more wind to the sails of Tether in Asia, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's I think also correctly or rightly or wrongly, I mean, there's a perception that because those dollars are held offshore, that somehow there's less entanglement with U.S. regulators or what have you. I don't think that's true, but I think that may be the perception, that somehow Tether is less regulated than, say, Paxos or USDC. And I don't think that's functionally true, but I think that's perception.
So I'm almost hearing from both of you that stablecoins, specifically Tether, are trying to supplant or attempting to supplant Swift, either indirectly or directly. So do you think stablecoins are a better peer-to-peer electronic currency than even BTC?
Maybe first, I wouldn't say it's trying to supplant. I think the use of it and the adoption is already supplanting it. Tether, I don't think Phil, and please, I'm not the domain expert here, but I don't think people at Tether are sitting around at the table and saying we want to supplant and replace Swift. It just kind of happens because of the friction that's in the system, and the first person that solves that friction gets the rewards. That's how it works, at least.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that when I first conceived of the concept of Tether back in late in 2013, it just seemed like a way to solve a particular problem of trying to disassociate the banking function from the exchange function, right? So the idea back then, of course, was at least what we thought back then from a regulatory standpoint, that like a place like Cryptsy was that was okay because it was all crypto to crypto, and regulations didn't apply. And obviously that's not how it turned out, but and that it's the mixing of the dollars in this exchange platform that created the problem. So I could just create, say, PayPal on the blockchain and then just run a crypto-only exchange, and but then seems to solve problems. I never thought that it would become what it is today. I mean, it's really pretty kind of remarkable. But you're right. No one was sitting around kind of saying, "Oh, we're going to do this. This is a strategy." It had to do with like, well, let's create this thing and let's see what people do with it.
But Phil, what do you think the end game is for Tether? Is it just, how big does it get before it gets national regulatory concerns around it, more so than it maybe is now? But just like, how big can it get before a nation state steps in and says, enough's enough?
I think my guess is it's probably getting to that size already. I don't really know anything more than you guys know in the public. I mean, I haven't been associated with Tether for over 2 years, but I think that it's going to be challenging for that. I think that at some point, here's the thing: if the U.S. government wants to shut down Tether, they can, right? I mean, it's dollars; they can freeze the bank account for the dollars are held, even if it's an offshore bank. They could the correspondent can have the correspondent shut it down. So it continues to exist really at the large of the U.S. Federal Reserve and the U.S. government. When does that change? When does that stop? I don't know. I don't know, but there are certain problems with any stablecoin, and that is simply that the stablecoins can move in basically any quantity without there being any intermediary, any KYC being done at the intermediary level. And that's a problem. That will be a problem, despite the fact that the New York Department of Financial Services approved, the stablecoin issuance, like Gemini, Paxos, and what have you, knowing this feature, and
with maybe some bad reputation attached to it is just too big to ignore and too lucrative to have as a client to, eventually give them a chance and onboard Tether. And, like maybe in the most extreme cases, we'll just see JP Morgan banking Tether in like 3 years, What do you think?
I would like to think that that's the case. But I do think that Tether needs to find its way through its current legal headaches, and that process is just going to take time. But I'm confident that they'll get there. Once a name gets tainted, I think it's hard. It's going to be hard for them to find a home like other sort of blessed stablecoin projects, can. But it doesn't mean that they're easily toppled either. I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. But again, I keep coming back to this thing that one thing that regulators haven't really gotten their arms around is the fact that this stuff can move around in the wild with no KYC. Sure. At the point of where you're creating or redeeming, there's KYC, of course. Out in the wild, there isn't. I don't know how we're going to solve this problem without having, unless we're talking about protocols that have sort of digital certificates of identity embedded in them, and your transactions, every transaction has to append that kind of information. There's some type of your travel kind of implementation or something like that. I don't know, but I suspect it will go in that direction. And if that does happen, then the ones that play ball are going to be the ones that then there'll be just two types of money out there. There'll be unregulated money and there'll be regulated money. And the question is whether or not the authorities actually take the move of stamping out the unregulated money. I mean, they could, right? They would have to just go to the banks that service the unregulated tokens and kind of shut it down. I mean, they can do that.
Sure.
Last few questions for Miha about Stamp. I think we talked about Lightning Network last year. Maybe we didn't, but you guys added some sort of node to the Lightning Network or something. Has anything come about with that since a year ago?
We're running a node, but so far haven't decided to expand that offering. I mean, we've seen some really cool developments in the space, but truth be told, Lightning is super exciting as a concept, but right now, for an exchange, I'm not entirely sure if it's quite there just yet to be rolled out in a big way and where big adoption is going to follow suit.
Gotcha. And then, do you guys plan on adding an exchange token anytime soon? That seems to be the next hot thing for exchanges to have their own token.
I think we're just going to be listing other tokens, but not be issuing our own token. I think that's
never a Stamp token.
Well, I'm not saying never, because that's the last thing I want. Like, if we have a panel in 1 year and you'll say like, "Oh, last year you say you won't have a token, and now you have a token," but
security, you guys are regulated. I mean, I would be.
There we go. I mean,
I agree with Phil, but that doesn't stop a lot of exchanges from having their own token.
Well, okay, yeah. All those other exchanges exist in a regulatory, limbo land, right? So, and it's just saying,
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on anything, Phil or Miha? That's kind of all I got here. I was going to ask Austin about
Lightning.
Either Lightning or just the stuff in general. I was going to ask Austin about the bank stuff, but he was unable to connect. Do you have any thoughts on crypto banks being the future?
I mean, I think, I do have some thoughts on that. I would say that one of the biggest problems with investing in Bitcoin or any crypto to any scale is simply the problem of custody. I'll tell you, even as a Bitcoiner, I get nervous about when I'm working with a hardware wallet, I got to generate my seed. Okay, now I got to write it down somewhere securely. But now I need to break it up into two pieces. I need to make sure that, okay, well, what happens if I die? And how does my family get crypto? I mean, there's all kinds of problems with custody, right? And this is why the idea of professional custodians, i.e. banks, is a very attractive idea. It will be a business model that will have traction. I don't know when. There's going to have to be enough. The market size has to be big enough for it to make sense. But it will. The average person doesn't want to invest in millions of things. Not the average, but the average institutional type investor got millions of dollars of this stuff. You're not going to want to be fooling around with them, with a ledger or something. They're going to want to pay somebody who's legally responsible for it.
Mm-hmm. I think here's the thing, and this is something that a lot of people have told me that with like a ton of more experience than I have, but everyone wants to become a bank until they actually become a bank, and then they're sorry for becoming a bank. And there's not a single person that I ever spoke to that wouldn't say and acknowledge that fact. So I think this industry as a whole still has some lengths to go, and evolution and innovation to overcome before things will settle down to a degree where setting up a bank makes a ton of sense. I mean, I don't know, and I cannot speak for, let's say, Kraken that recently became a bank, but it is a strategy that yet has to be tested in this space.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. I think that's all I have. Thanks for joining the panel, and Miha, thank you for coming from Slovenia. And yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Josh. And here's a message from Austin. I have a message from Austin from Kraken. So he said that he loves you all and he loves all people. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.